I think today's gaming audience has a shifting perspective when it comes to how they prioritize the games they play. For a long time, the primary motivation was simple: it was fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. But increasingly, players seem drawn to experiences that feel heavier, games that linger, games that say something, games that demand interpretation rather than just passive enjoyment. Returnal was one of those games. Historically, the shooter genre has leaned heavily on mechanics, tight gunplay, fast reactions, and varied modes. Narrative, when present, often took a back seat to all those other factors. Returnal challenged that expectation. It didn't abandon mechanics, but it refused to let them be the entire point of the game. Returnal was an underrated hit, and it's exactly the kind of game I think players want more of. Not because it reinvented shooting, but because it asked something of the players emotionally and psychologically. Because of that success, SAROS feels like a game you are meant to interpret, not just play. And that perception didn't just come out of nowhere. Aside from Returnal's critical acclaim, I think SAROS is popular because of Housemarque and PlayStation's minimalist but highly effective marketing philosophy. Returnal had announcement trailers, combat showcases, story beats, and gameplay previews, but it was never oversaturated. It wasn't everywhere all the time. Now compare that tendency to that of other major releases. Games like God of War or The Last of Us received promotion whenever possible, sometimes even when there was nothing new to say. Nintendo did something similar with Pokemon. I would receive a YouTube notification with Pokemon Legends ZA in the subject line, expecting something meaningful only to discover it was a 30-second reminder that Mega Evolution exists again. Like, okay. There's a problem because when everything is constantly marketed, nothing feels special. Housemarque avoided that redundancy. They allowed players to discover Returnal rather than be bombarded by it. And that sense of discovery, the feeling of stumbling upon something meaningful rather than being sold a product, is one of the biggest reasons Returnal became what it did. At this point, Returnal isn't just a game, it's a cultural reference point. Yes, the hellfire of bullets is gripping, but the psychological implications of the story are far more important. You crash land on an unknown planet, you're stranded, every attempt to escape ends in failure, every death sends you back to the beginning, and to make matters worse, Celine encounters her own corpses scattered throughout the world. It's unsettling, not just because of what it shows, but because of what it implies. The world itself is unstable. Biomes shift, environments change, you're never fully certain what's coming next. At the same time, Celine's past is fragmented and unreliable, bleeding into the present in ways that make it difficult to separate memory from guilt or reality from perception. In a strange way, Returnal creates a form of outward claustrophobia. You're not trapped in a small space, you're trapped in something vast and unknowable. A prison with no walls, a cycle that encloses you psychologically while offering no clear exit. It's like you're literally trapped in your own psyche with no clear means of a physical exit or to get out of that situation. Returnal isn't just fun, it's more than that. And that's because it didn't dominate sales solely, it dominated memory. And that's why people keep comparing Saros to Returnal. Not because of how it plays, but because of how it positions itself. Set on the lost, off-world colony of Carcosa, Saros follows Arjun Devraj, an enforcer searching for a missing person beneath the influence of a madness-inducing eclipse, whereas Celine's journey is inward, searching for herself essentially. Arjun's journey is both outward and inward. He's searching for someone else, but depending on how the story unfolds, he may also be searching for pieces of his own identity. That parallel matters, and I think Housemarque intentionally intended it that way. These two games share a kind of narrative DNA: isolation, identity, repetition, and interpretation. But similarity does not equal identity. Saros is clearly influenced by Returnal, and some players may label it derivative rather than inspired by. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with reusing a blueprint that works, but perception matters. Saros doesn't need to be the next Returnal, it just needs to understand why Returnal mattered. And here's what's interesting. I've never played Returnal, and Saros is still in development, but even without direct experience, it's impossible to ignore the cult following Returnal has accumulated since its release back in 2021. The fact that the same studio, Housemarque, is developing Saros only reinforces that expectation, not because shared studios guarantee success, but because Returnal has a documented track record of resonating deeply with players. I've already pre-ordered Saros, and once it releases, I'll be able to do a focused analysis after spending real time with it. But for now, the real question isn't whether SAROS plays like Returnal, it's whether SAROS can create the same kind of silence when the screen fades to black. The kind where players don't immediately start another game, but sit there, thinking. Thanks for watching. I'm Harlem, and I'll catch you in the next one.